what you got on your heart, mind, and what we can do to help.
Okay. Thanks, Jim. Thanks, everybody. Well, what I thought I'd do is kind of give you a synopsis. It's going to be quick, but take questions, because I think there's a lot of questions on people's minds that we may not address when we speak. So the first thing I'm going to start talking about is, now you're seeing the problem that Donald Trump has engaged in, the swamp. It goes all the way through the bureaucracy, all the way through the bureaucracy. Look at the Department of Justice. Why isn't things being done? Look at the State Department. Why aren't things being done? You can have the heads of those agencies, but if you don't have the rank and file, it's not going anywhere. And the reason I bring this up is, when I was elected 4 years ago as the chairman of the Western Caucus, I decided to do something a little different. I was stymied by the bureaucracy. So I went to the president and I said, give me an opportunity to talk just to your secretaries and undersecretaries. And their comment was, why? And I said, because we're going to bypass the bureaucracy and get stuff done. Amazing. That's exactly what happened. You know, so Waters of the U.S., energy policy, NEPA reform, those all have the hand of Western Caucus in it. And what it did when we were in the minority, it gave my folks from the Western states something to go back home and say, listen, this is what I did for you. This is how we streamlined the process. So that's what's here. That's why we need 4 more years for Donald Trump. He's an outsider, complete outsider, and everything they have thrown at him, they're guilty of. Let's just look at the revelations of now with Israel, the peace treaties with Israel. Everybody said it couldn't be done. Well, here comes a businessman that says, "Look, I wonder if we could work trade and finances. Maybe that's a great way to do it." Bingo. Bingo, now you got 3 and you got another 4 lining up to sign on with Israel. So amazing things are happening. They're slow, though. The revelations now of Hunter Biden, folks, I got to tell you, these are real. These are not fake. They have documents that back them up. And it's a shame. It is an absolute shame that the FBI had this laptop in their possession almost a year ago. And they didn't use it to offset the impeachment proceedings. That just goes to show you how deep this bureaucracy is impugned with holdovers from Obama, from Clinton, from the Bushes even, that are trying to hold things up. Now, on another front, let's talk about the COVID relief. There's $138 billion sitting in a fund right now that no one can touch because it's not flexible enough to be put out to the businesses. Nancy Pelosi refuses to actually move that. She wants to spend nearly $2.2 trillion. Now, the number is tough to swallow, but it's what's in the bill that is hard to swallow. Same-day registration and vote. Payments to illegal aliens. $1,200 for adult, $500 for a child. Folks, it's riddled with all these things that they want. So it's not the president. It's not Mark Meadows. It's not Mnuchin. It's Nancy Pelosi. Now, we have some hints that there's some dissatisfaction in our midst. So because she didn't move this bill, between 23 and 25, I don't know which the number is right now, have signed a discharge petition. Now, what's a discharge petition? It's a bill that's not being heard in the process of normal business. The speaker won't bring up. And what they do is they bring it to the floor and you co-sponsor it. Now, once it hits 218 votes, they have to bring it to the floor. It's a priority item. If you got 218, it's going to pass. What it basically does is it cripples the speaker. It's a big no-no. for our speaker to let something like that happen. So that's what's sitting there. You got 23 to 25 Democrats. If all the Republicans sign on to that bill, it moves. Okay? The money's allocated. And that's what you've seen from the Senate. Any relief package that comes out now has to be targeted. Okay, so let's look at the funding. From the CARES Act, there's almost $600 billion, close to $600 billion still sitting out there in governors' back pockets. There's still tens of billions of dollars that haven't been used by the hospitals. And so I guess my point is why throw more money at a problem when you don't know the scope of the problem? It seems to me you'd want to do a targeted response. Get the biggest bang for the buck. And I applaud Mitch McConnell for dragging his feet on those big packages and to put something that's a little bit more concise. We'll see. Nothing's happening before Tuesday. Just FYI, nothing's happening. And that gets me back to the last thing. COVID. Folks, this is a coronavirus. There's a reason why kids are not really hurt by it. Because they fight coronaviruses all the time. All the time. And this election will show you that there's a dramatic difference between the two candidates. Everything that Joe Biden has said, got to tell you, it makes no sense. The president's already done that. There's plenty of therapeutics to actually be used. Hydroxychloroquine's one of them, folks. The results that you see out of India, particularly Taiwan, are incredible. Here's Taiwan. Taiwan got word of something happening in Wuhan province, so they shut down their borders. They then heard there was a respiratory problem. They identified all their population that had respiratory problems. They then pre-medicated them with hydroxychloroquine and zinc. Then what they did for those that had active symptoms, they actually gave them a Z-Pack. 24 million people stacked more densely than New York City, and as of today, 9 people have died. 9. That's it. Zippo, that's it. India did the same thing, but they didn't shut down their borders. They just started pre-medicating with hydroxychloroquine and zinc. It works. So there's tons of therapeutics that can be done here. Lights, UV lights, for the spectrum. These foggers that take bleach and water and make this microscopic mist that actually kills germs and bacteria. Folks, this is not difficult technology. It exists. It's very inexpensive. So there's a lot of things to do. But from day one when this came about, my comment was this. It's not a matter of if you're going to touch this virus, but when. You want to do it on your terms, not the virus's terms. So that's called immunity. That builds your immune system. When you're healthy, you want to encounter these bugs so that your immune system can start coding for it. So you're ready to offset that. So once again, this is a sad state of affairs. The media has done a fabulous job. I'll give them credit. A fabulous job of getting people to think that cases are the same thing as deaths. It's sad what they've done. But the overall arching theme is that this media, the Democrats, the never-Trumpers, hate this president more than they love this country. So I'm going to finish up by saying, listen, if you haven't voted, you got to get out and vote, folks. Got to. And if you voted, make sure that all your friends and family are voting as well. I can't imagine losing the presidency, losing the House, and the Senate. Never have I ever seen a group of people telling you exactly what they're going to do. A vote that stays home, a vote that votes for anything other than a Republican, is voting for anarchy, the end of the republic. It's the end of this Constitution. It's for socialism. It's for communism. It's headed your way. Not on your grandkids, not on your kids, today. The transformation is insidious. It's fast. Stacking the court, the Supreme Court. Making 2 new states in the Union, Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C. We're obsolete. The Republican Party, who's been on the right side of history almost every single time, is history. But if we are to do the trifecta, keep the presidency, keep the Senate, and get the House back, it may be the end of the Democratic Party. Imagine what can happen in 4 years when he's not bothered by impeachments, by false scandals, and he's got people ready to work. Now, I've been hit up saying, okay, what happened to you guys when you did have the House? Well, the reason we lost the House is because we made promises and we didn't keep them. Right. And yours truly was one of those people barking. A lot of it has to do with our leadership, the speaker at the time. I wasn't fond of him. I let my voice be heard. So now we're doing things a little bit differently. So as of Wednesday night I fly back to D.C. Not for business with the caucus, but with the Freedom Caucus. If we take back the House, it's probably no more, it will have a majority of no more than 8 votes. And it's coming through the Freedom Caucus. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to set the agenda. And then when we have leadership elections, make sure they're going to uphold our agenda. Otherwise, out they go. We don't get second chances very often. And you got to take advantage of it. So I'm going to leave it there because I'm much better at questions. So remember, I'm a dentist. I kiss and tell. So let's start some questions. Yes?
I've been reading a lot of articles about law enforcement being defunded. Mm-hmm. Has the White House got any thoughts on that, or has the police force funded again?
Well, once again, they're against defunding. But once again, the federal intercept in that aspect is what's different. This president has been very good about the overreach of the federal government. Law enforcement is a local issue, a state issue, not a federal issue. And so he's been very hesitant to utilize National Guard troops unless he's asked. Because he's a believer that we don't want a militarized police force that's federalized. Does that make sense? Yeah. We're letting the governors in those blue states and those cities dig it themselves a hole. And I'll give you some quick notes up to that. In Portland, Oregon, Peter DeFazio, one of my colleagues for 28, 30 years, is all of a sudden now on the ropes with a young man because of his views of defunding the police. This young man shouldn't be close, and they're dead even. Yes, ma'am.
Everything that was just said and you referenced in terms of Section 230.
Yeah.
Or I'm not sure how many people in Arizona, and I've been talking to different lawmakers. I actually drove up to Scottsdale specifically about this issue. Mm-hmm. Are you aware that Michael Crow has been the 20-year founding and current chairman of the CIA Incutel entity?
I've heard that.
He is funding, he is working with Google, Eric Schmidt, on foundations. He is working, Incutel basically funds and incubates big tech, surveillance and data capture. And he's setting up in Arizona the first 5G IoT smart region, 22 cities, all connected together in data centers that are supposed to connect to Texas. So I've got a 115-page report that everything about surveillance capitalism, but it's worse.
So she brings up a good point about this 5G. Folks, I got to tell you, the race is on. He who gets to 5G with the oversight is going to win big time. China is right there. If they win, it's just a matter of time. Because they'll be able to change, as you're sending a message, they can actually change the message in movement. Yeah, this is incredible, this technology. So we got to be ahead of the ball game here. No, thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah. Well, I mean, this is what the Hunter Biden aspect really starts to show you. And I'm going to take the opportunity to discuss this right now. This wasn't chance that Hunter Biden was in China. This wasn't chance. Remember Uranium One, folks? So when an issue or a company or something is deemed in the best interest of this country or in national security, it has to go before CFIUS, which is the head of all the agencies, to make sure that it can be sold. This Henninger's manufacturing company in Ohio had a dual role, both civilian and military. It had an anti-vibrating technology. Our military wanted. So Senator Grassley's asking the right question. Did it go through CFIUS? If it did, why wasn't it held up? If it didn't go through CFIUS, why didn't it? Now we're starting to see this trail of interested vice president and president moving this around, both the president, Barack Obama, and Joe Biden. So they maneuvered this around the CFIUS rule. This is how bad this is. This is really, really bad. Now, let's take in what the former prospects were. Since Jimmy Carter, there is a thing called the Carter Doctrine. And what it basically stated was the United States leadership felt that if they gave our technology to China, they'd be more like us. So they didn't have to steal it. We were giving it to them, including nuclear secrets during the Clinton administration. This is how bad this is. This is how ingrained this is. And part of the problem is it's not just Democrats. It's Republicans in the cookie jar too. It's that aristocracy. And they don't want it to be found. Why do you think Barack Obama is running around like a crazy man? Because if Donald Trump gets back in, we take the House and the Senate, his whole legacy is going to fall apart. Once that first peg comes out, it's going to cascade like you have never seen before. He was the Manchurian candidate. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. David.
You talked about Republicans, the possibility of Republicans taking back the House.
Yeah.
Here in Arizona, we have a 5-4 split in our congressional delegation, and all the media reports that Schweikert is in trouble. And if we lose Congressman Schweikert, of course, then we have a 3-6 delegation in favor of the Democrats. Something a few years ago most of us would have thought was unthinkable. Right? Could you give us any insights into where we are now here in Arizona with the Schweikert race and some of these other close races? And do you have any insight? I saw you were in Bullhead City the other day with the president. Any thoughts about where we are now in Arizona with the Trump ban?
That's a great question. Yes, David is in a dogfight. You know, with his ethics affirmation, that hurt him. He's also got a lot of the suburban housewife clientele that are not particularly happy with the president. They don't like his tone, they don't like his demeanor. Whether they vote for him or not, we'll have to see. They also want security, they want the riots to stop, and they also want to have good jobs, which is all in his favor. David right now is maybe a point or two up. So he's in a dogfight. And with the money that's flowing into Arizona and Texas, the Soros campaign, they're dumping money right and left. Let's go to one. Tiffany Shedd and Tom O'Halloran are dead even. It depends on who comes out. It's hard for me to believe that in that district, Tom wins again. And the reason being is he was a cop from Southside Chicago. He voted with Pelosi about changing the profile of a police department. I just don't see that. Now, I'm safe, Andy's safe, Debbie's safe. There's another race. There's actually two of them. And a lot of it depends upon who comes out. Ann Kirkpatrick. We didn't know that there would be such a movement, but there is. So Ann is in a touch-and-go race. Now, we'll see if it actually materializes. And the second one is Raul Grijalva. So what is occurring right now is almost identical to 2010. Raul did not do anything. He hasn't put a sign out. He hasn't really done any propaganda. He just thinks he's going to win. And so the Republican candidate, Dan, has gone with people door to door, with the Trump folks, our folks, and has made a huge movement. So now it just depends upon who shows up in that district. You also have the FBI now in Yuma. Some creative citizens actually videotaped how they were changing votes at the post office. So votes were being sent to the post office boxes, and those post office boxes weren't rented out by citizens. Interesting, interesting. So that's going to be shut down. So there's two more right there. Now, you lead into another question, because redistricting is coming. So we'll have new districts starting in 2022. We're going to get one district, maybe even two. But now they're selecting, and they've already started the selection process of that redistricting committee. It's going to be imperative who that independent is. The governor has done a pretty darn good job with the folks from the legal team, from the legal side, because we're going to really need a staunch backbone for defense of those individuals. So we'll see. But I will tell you, I think there's a good case to be made that we could be instead of a 6-3 or a 3-6, we could actually be an 8-3 very, very easily. And if you follow the law, if you follow the rules, it's perfectly there. It's perfectly there. Folks, I'm going to end with this. You're at the crossroads. You can go one way or you can go the other. If you go the wrong way, God help us. God help us. Because they're not quiet. Listen to Ocasio-Cortez. Listen to Miss Tlaib. Listen to Miss Omar. Listen to Bernie Sanders. Listen to Elizabeth Warren. Listen to Kamala Harris. This was done intentionally. Go back. Go back. Kamala had her hearing. They wanted to see if she was the person because Barack Obama wanted to back her. She failed miserably. So why then does Jim Clyburn do what he does for Joe Biden? Why is it before Super Tuesday, all those other candidates bailed out? Think about it, folks. Think about it long and hard. If we win, they are in total disarray. But I'm of the mindset that when they go down, you put your boot on their neck and you put them all the way down. This is going to be a fight. And if we lose, you better have a ton of fighters. You better have, I mean, I come from the group of fighters. If you notice, the president is always calling me out as, there's a hell of a fighter. I'm no wallflower. But I even look at what we will be able to do. So think about this. So those that led on Fast and Furious, those that led on the IRS, those that led on the Benghazi, those that led on the attacks on the press, those that led on the unmasking, those that led on Ukraine Gate, those that led on Russia Gate, those that led on Obama Gate, those that led on Biden Gate are going to be targeted. They're going to use the law against us. Oh, I'm sure that's, I mean, they don't even have to take us to prison. All they have to do is file lawsuits. You go bankrupt. So that's where we're at. We're all in this together, folks. There's no Sneetches on the beaches with stars on theirs and those that don't have one. If you ever read the Dr. Seuss book, you need to. Sneetches on the Beaches by Dr. Seuss. We're all together in this right now. What you do in the next 4 days is everything. Everything. We have the ability to take back that House. We have the ability to keep the Senate. And we definitely have the ability to get 4 more years. But if the president gets 4 more years, he doesn't have the House and Senate, folks, they're going to impeach him. They're going to change the rules. They've already said it. They've already said it. And think for just a moment. Just think for a moment. What this man has done in 3.5, almost 4 years, with constant obstacles from the Democrats, from the press, and from Republican leadership. Everything he's promised you, he delivered on. When have you seen a politician do that? You haven't. It's business people. Somebody that loves this country more than they hate the president. But imagine, just imagine, for us in the Ninth Circuit, imagine now having a conservative Ninth Circuit. We're almost there, folks. We should have a conversation as soon as the new year starts about breaking in the 9th into the 9th and the 12th district. And then we get 2 conservative benches, because I'll happily take 3 or 4 of those liberal judges and put them on the 12th. It's sitting right there for us. So we sit on that pendulum, we sit on that nice edge. But what we do, how we decide this, will make the difference of a lifetime. I hope you're like me. I don't want to say I wish I woulda, coulda. Because there's no tomorrows. I think Quan knows lots about that. He saw it in the country he came from. It's not freedom and liberty. You're a ward of the federal government. You get what they want you to have, and you don't get what they don't want you to have. It's just that simple. Folks, thanks for showing up on a Saturday morning. Appreciate the smiles. Thank you. And get out and vote. Appreciate it.